Hi everyone, my name's Geordie Milbourne, the owner of Property Market Group, and I'm doing this amazing podcast today with Prosper. And I'm just speaking a bit about my life and my journey and my trials and tribulations and a few of my successes and roadblocks in life. And also, lastly, just speaking a bit about my business and how I help my clients achieve financial freedom and passive income through property development and commercial investment. So thank you.
Now, welcome to yet another exciting episode of the Online Prosperity Show, where we dive into the journeys of remarkable individuals that are transforming lives and industries. I'm your host, Prosper Taruvinga, and today we're joined by a good friend of mine, Geordie Milbourne, the dynamic force behind Property Market Group. Now, Geordie, how are you doing today?
Very well, Prosper. Thank you very much. I really appreciate you inviting me to the podcast today.
Absolutely. Well, the pleasure is all mine. I mean, I wouldn't resist a chance because what you do is help other individuals find their next home or investment in and around Australia. And wouldn't that be nice? Because each and every one of us wants to have that financial independence and everything else that comes along with it. Now, for those that are watching or listening right now, Geordie's story is definitely one of resilience and reinvention. From battling cancer at 26 to navigating the highs and lows of entrepreneurship, he's now emerged with a mission to help others achieve financial freedom through strategic property investment. But also, it's not all doom and gloom as it has already started to sound like. And we're not just going to be talking about numbers and properties and all that stuff that people don't want to hear about. As a tidbit that I found interesting, Geordie is actually a former pro athlete, being an Australian Kumite karate gold medalist. He also obviously is going to be bringing the discipline and the tenacity that comes with exploring endeavors like that. So in this episode, we're going to be looking at Geordie's transformative journey from adversity to success, all the innovative strategies that he employs to solve his clients, issues, especially when it comes to time and money challenges, and also the insights into, what fascinates Geordie about the property market and how you can leverage from his expertise. So if you're seeking inspiration, practical advice, and maybe a few laughs along the way, stay tuned. This is an episode that you don't want to miss. Now, Geordie, I could go on and talk about things I'm not even qualified to talk about. You had a diverse career path. Could you maybe share a little bit about that path and also what these early experiences have done in shaping you into the person you become today?
Yes, well, thanks for that, Prosper. Really appreciate that introduction. I started off when I was well, if we go back to my high school years, I was very well into sport. Sport was pretty much my life and what I spent most of my time in. So I loved fitness. I loved anything. So I played, football, soccer, basketball, even worked my way into karate. And just was really, really passionate about sports through my teens and through high school. So, and had the dream of, like many does, about becoming a professional sportsman. So, mainly, what I was thinking when I was younger was tennis was an early love. That came from grade 6 in primary school, playing bat tennis. Never heard of this bat tennis before, never seen it. and started playing that and got into that, and that spurred me to ask my dad for tennis lessons. So, started off strongly in the tennis and did pretty well in it, and then sort of worked my way up. Once I got into high school, it was more about basketball. That was sort of the main sport that I played until I'd say maybe year 9 or year 10, when I was introduced to karate for self discipline. So I was always very into the sports. But then as I got older, I realized, obviously finishing school, that my dad was very a hard worker, and he was like, "You've got to go get a job." While I was in high school, I actually was working at McDonald's. That was my first official job, working at McDonald's. So in Preston, there, Bell Street McDonald's, very popular McDonald's in the northern area of Melbourne. Uh, so it was quite popular. My girlfriend got a job there, so I sort of followed at the time, which was pretty funny. But then after school, I was sort of lost because I didn't know which sports I wanted to go into. I was good at many sports, but I didn't really pick one, which sort of got me a bit lost. But in the meantime, my dad said, "You've got to get to work if you're going to live under my roof." So in turn from that, he ended up giving me a job at his workplace, and it was a place called Kodak. So I was very happy to work at Kodak with my dad. My dad obviously looking after me, getting me a job in there. My auntie also worked there. So, and it was literally 2 minutes down the road. So it was very, very convenient for me. So really, I started off at Kodak as the first job when I was an adult. And unfortunately, Kodak didn't make that shift into the digital space. And I didn't last long. I think it was maybe 18 months. I'd just gotten full time. I was very, very excited. I was making pretty good money. I was making more money than some of my friends' dads, which was a shock because I was working really hard and they paid really well. But unfortunately, when they didn't take to digital cameras, Sony ended up taking over the sort of market in that space and moving to the digital space, and I become unemployed. So it was a bit unfortunate, but that was my first taste of working in the real world for Kodak, and then sort of seeing that go under was a bit of a shock to me, and I was a bit like, what's next? And then I moved to Ford. I actually got a job at Ford up in Camberfield. Another great job. And unfortunately, Ford started to ship a lot of their business overseas. A lot of manufacturing started to move overseas, and within the year, they sacked, I think, over 1,000 workers there. And unfortunately, I was, sometimes they say last in, first out. So it was a bit of a shock for me in my early years when it came to um, working. Then I realized I needed to upskill, and I ended up after that going into logistics. So I went and got myself 2 diplomas in logistics, and started down that path. And that's when it sort of, as I sort of moved on, I sort of went into that space.
And thank you so much for taking us on that, winding road to where we are right now. And it's quite interesting. The places and the people you've come across have actually had a big impact in who you've become right now. Now, in all these things, you mentioned your dad 2 or 3 times. First of all, being the person that you asked to purchase sporting equipment and things like that. How how important was the relationship that you had with your dad, in those first days? Because so many people don't quite have that relationship. As we will know later on, it became very pivotal.
Yes. Well, in my earlier years, I'd probably say definitely in my primary school years, when maybe four, five, six, and maybe up to about year seven, eight, nine, maybe even nearly 10, my dad worked 60, 70, sometimes 80-hour weeks. There was a lot of time I didn't see my dad, especially when my dad moved to make more money on night shift. And when he moved to night shift when he was working at Kodak, I never saw him. So through the day, I would go to school, my dad would be asleep. And then by the time I got home, my dad would be at work. So, and then he would work all night to the morning. He'd come home about 5, 6 o'clock in the morning and go to sleep. So for many years, I never saw my dad. My dad just worked, worked, worked. And my dad is one of those guys that he will go to work if his leg's broken. If he, he could be sick, very sick as a dog, and he'll still go to work. I think my dad said to me in 10 years or something of working, he only had 4 days off. So my dad was a workaholic, but unfortunately, my dad had a workplace injury, and that actually, stopped him from working. So, which was terrible for my dad because that was his life. My dad was always like the man must provide for the family, and he was very strong about that. He had a very very strong work ethic. And eventually that rubbed off on me. I saw how hard my dad worked, and to me that was like, well, I've got to do what my dad does, and work very hard. So I got my work ethic from my father, and he was really good at providing. So even though he wasn't around much throughout even my sporting years, many events he wouldn't attend. I'd be lucky to have my mum. My mum would be working as well, and it was me and my brother, and she'd be doing a lot of work, and so I didn't really have much support there, but my dad always funded everything I did. So I really, really appreciate my father for, you know, I didn't probably appreciate as much back then when I was a kid, but now I do. That he wasn't there, but he never said no to anything. He always let me do what I want and chase my dream. If I always chopping and changing sports and saying I want to do this, I want to do that, and he was always funding it. So and there were other kids that didn't have that um, luxury. So we didn't come from a rich family. We're a very working class family, but my dad and my mum supported me in everything I did. So I really appreciated that, especially as I got older.
Oh, absolutely. And, kudos to you for acknowledging that as well. Some people would just attribute, whatever success they've had to just their own maybe work ethic and things of that nature, but also still really focusing on the dad and family sort of part. Was there any expectation as a kid for you to do well?
Always, always. My parents were always uplifting. They were always positive. So they would always tell me that you're going to be the best. You're going to be, you're going to do well. Everything you do, you'll do well. So they always really supported me confidently. And even my, extended family, my grandma, my aunties and uncles, they'd always praise me for things, and I was always wanting to do my best. I think my first sport, though, was actually athletics, and I did very, very well at athletics, and I loved sprinting. I was a sprinter. So, but in my main sports in athletics were 100, 200, and long jump. They were and obviously the relay. But I did very, very well in that, and actually made it onto TV and was running at Olympic Park. So when I was very young, and had one of the fastest 100-meter sprint times in the country.
Absolutely. So I bet Bolt has got nothing on you, right, Geordie?
Yeah, no, I wish I was as tall as him. I think for every 3 steps I take is his one. But yeah, it was actually great. I loved athletics, and now my kids, I've got 3 kids, and they all do athletics, and I think it's just great for their health. Great for them to. I built some great relationships over my years in athletics, and it was really enjoyable. So I'm glad now that my kids are getting the same, and I'm actually in a position to be able to support them. I'm on the athletics committee, so I'm contributing to the community and to our club, and I'm currently in charge of sponsorship, so raising money for the club, which is great. So I love to be able to give back now. So I now see that a lot of junior sports, it really needs support from the parents,
Mhm.
which is great. And this is where I'm really grateful to some of the friends that I had around me, because my parents were always working and couldn't come to the events. That my friends' parents would drive me to the events, and I'd sort of go with them. And looking at that, there was some of I really appreciated what my friends' parents do. They took me under like I was, one of their children, and fed me and took me to events, picked me up, dropped me off, and it would drive me all around Melbourne, taking me to sporting events. So it was really amazing, and it was and when my parents did come, it was a bit of a highlight. So I was a bit of a shock, and it was funny because sometimes it actually put me off, because I was like not used to them being here, and then the pressure of trying to perform in front of them. So
I can
it was
imagine.
quite funny.
I can imagine. Now, also, as part of your journey, you went through the McDonald's sort of university way of being,
Yeah.
where structure and systems are, center stage, and things of that nature. And it's a whole different mindset when you're working in there. And so many people that I know that have gone on to be very successful had start in the McDonald's system of
Oh,
working.
really?
Do you think that has actually contributed to maybe your love for property, or just the way you conduct yourself in business, so to speak?
No, I'd probably, to be honest with you, Prosper, I went into McDonald's because my
Mm.
girlfriend got a job there. And then she said, hey, you should come and join as well. So it was more of a fun thing. But it was quite funny because I followed her for that, and obviously when I went in there, it was like McDonald's very structured, and you have to do things a certain way. It's their way or the highway essentially. So I really got like you could probably say a lesson in how a business is meant to be run, and if there's a structure, you must follow it. I tend to not follow structures, and I was a bit rebellious, you could say, in school. I like to do things the way I wanted to do them, and that's definitely not how it works when you get in the real world and start working. So, and then again, obviously, with getting that job, mum and dad were very proud of me, and I was still juggling a lot. So I think it was about maybe year 10 that I started at McDonald's. That would have been 1996. And because as soon as I turned, I think it was 14 and 9 months or 14 and 9 months, I applied, and got in there. And I was working sometimes 3, 4 days a week, plus doing basketball 2, 3 nights. I was doing uh, also karate at that time 2 days a week. I was like full time job, and I was obviously at school full time. So trying to juggle everything, I was practically busy every single night of the week. Monday to Sunday, I had a sporting event or work, or sometimes both. But I realized when you're young, you've got heaps of energy, but you can still get burnt out by doing too much. And I always still in today managing how much I take on, because you only can do so much and you only have so much energy. And yeah, but I had a lot of fun at McDonald's. I met a lot of great friends because it was obviously in McDonald's, it's a very young group. So I made a lot of great friends, and it was for me, it was a great experience to my first job.
Absolutely. And speaking of all the jobs that you went on to do, I mean, Kodak did not innovate, and they obviously got the chop there, knowing what they could have been a leader in that industry, and also Ford, sort of, just yanked the rag, so to speak, under your feet. Did this not give you some sort of, how do I say this? Some sort of feeling that maybe work is not really the thing that I need to be doing, because so many people start feeling like, why me? Why are all these things happening to me?
It was at the time, it was very upsetting. What a pivotal moment was when we all got called into the food hall. We had a massive food hall. It could probably seat about hundreds of people. And I think I can't remember, there was hundreds and hundreds of people that worked at Kodak. It was very, very big. And I'll never forget that the ambulance was there, the police were there, and the news crew were there. And we are like, what is going on here? And that's when obviously the CEO of Kodak said, we're shutting down. And people had stroke, like heart attacks, like people dropped to the floor, people were crying. I knew I had a friend of mine who had just spent, oh God, it was nearly $1 million back then on a big brand new dream home, brand new cars for his wife, and then realized I haven't got a job. And it was a shock, a massive shock to the system for everyone. And a lot of the older people, they the good thing about Kodak is they paid out everyone very well, so people got looked after, which was great. But it's sort of for the older people, I think because I was the youngest and I always had a positive attitude. I was really upset because it was literally 2 minutes away from my house. So I loved it, and I was making really great money doing that. And to then lose it, I was like, oh wow, what do I do with myself now? And my dad's losing his job also. Like, so it was very, very tough.
Oh, I can only imagine. And obviously, from there, there's lessons to be learned and things of that nature. Did that affect the way you now conduct business? That, because obviously all that happened because they didn't innovate.
Yeah, well, I at one point I always used to, like you said earlier, why me? Why is this happening? But I've always had a really strong mindset of positivity, just always having, energy, happiness, all right, well, the good old saying that people would say, and I use sort of some of these, you'd say cheesy quotes, but like one door closes, another one opens, right? So and you sort of got to be able to move on. And back in my dad's day, it was people didn't switch jobs much. But as the transition, because I was born in '81, I was sort of like that transition from analog life to digital life. I sort of got to see both sides of the coin. So as we were getting older, it was starting to become more common for people to change jobs. Whereas back in the days of my dad and maybe my aunties and uncles and grandma, you had one job for life. A lot of people just had the one job and that's all they did, maybe two jobs. But I ended up doing a whole range of different jobs. And I think that's because I didn't really have a direction of where I was wanting to go. I think because I always thought, oh, I'm going to do something in sports and I'll be able to be a professional in something, that was it. And then when that didn't come to fruition, uh, then I was like, wow, what's next? What I didn't really have a plan B. And that's where the search became, well, let's just do anything and everything and find it. And it was in that search and that journey of finding myself. I was very young, and that's where I think I feel a bit blessed because a lot of the older guys, I remember when they were crying and people upset at Kodak, they were like, "What am I going to do now? No one's going to give me a job." Even
Mm.
people were saying, "I'm not going to. How am I going to get a job? I'm too old. No one will hire me." And then they would look at me and go, "Geordie, you're going to be fine. You're going to be fine. Don't worry, you'll be fine."
Absolutely.
So I embraced that.
I like that. I like that. So you mentioned positivity and mindset, and these are some of the
Yes.
things that really help people go through certain things that are happening for them, you know, especially in the world that we live in today. Now, you would have undertook some sort of personal development, you know, outside just the sporting and things of that
I,
nature.
I
What were
did.
some of the things that you did, you know, in order to reinforce that? Because obviously around you, you were surrounded by negativity. Dad had just lost his job. He was your hero, and maybe, you know, things of that nature. You would have needed
Yes.
some sort of way to really stand up or stand ground in your own personal
Yeah.
journey.
It actually spurred on for a few years. So when I look back, I'm like, Kodak was an amazing job. That for many people was a lifetime job, really good pay, you know. Then I moved to Ford, again, really good pay. That didn't work out. And then I got into logistics. I was working in warehousing here and there. Then I actually I went back to school and got my occupational health and safety certificate, and became an OH&S officer. Got a job on building sites, you know, doing safety. I thought this was great, and then that sort of didn't work out. The company I was working with didn't work out, and I just got lost. And I was like, where am I going here? You know, it's I've gone from job to job to job. I've had all these great jobs, and I kept losing him, and then I ended up getting a job. People from Kodak actually said, "Geordie, you've got to get into the brewery." And I ended up working at CUB. So I ended up working at the brewery, and a lot of Kodak people that left Kodak ended up going to the brewery. And they slowly, everyone would talk and say, "Hey, this is better money than Kodak. Come here." So it took me nearly 2 years to get there, and I was waiting and I was applying and trying really hard to get into there. And in the meantime, I ended up, I was trying to get into there, and unfortunately, I ended up losing my job. I ended up getting into the brewery and then losing my job there, which was very upsetting because when I did work there, I made really good money and things happened fast. You know, the house, I ended up buying a new house. I ended up, you know, holidays. I ended up being able to do all these things that I wanted to do, and it was really great. And I got a bit of depression when I lost that job, and then I went on to be a car salesman for Volkswagen, and it was a totally different job. So instead of working in manufacturing, I went straight into wearing a suit and selling cars. Unfortunately, that didn't work out, and that was sort of the theme of my life where I would get all these different opportunities, amazing opportunities, but they never ever lasted. And that was sort of my life. And it was only until one day I lost my job at Volkswagen, and I came home early. And while it was on a Saturday, and while I was out, my mother-in-law, at the time, she came over to prune the roses in our front garden, and she noticed my car there. And she was like, hmm. And then she started knocking on the door. I really did not want to talk to her. I didn't even want to let her in. But I just felt really bad for not doing it because she started looking through the window like this. And I'm like, oh, all right. And then I opened the door, and the first thing she said is, "You've lost your job again, haven't you?" And I said, "Yes." And she's like, "Oh, Melissa's not going to be happy." And I went, "Yeah, I know. Again, I've got to search and don't know what I'm doing." And then that's when she offered me the gift of landmark education. She had been doing this self-development course, and I was at the bottom of my barrel. I was like, I just lost $200,000 plus jobs a year. I was really depressed. I was really excited, and then the embarrassment of having to tell all your friends and family, "Oh, Geordie's lost his job again." Like, he has all these great jobs and it's exciting, but how long is it going to last? And it was sort of like a common joke within my family. It's like, "Geordie, what job are you doing now? Like, you know, how many jobs have you got now? You know, like, what are you doing?" So that was a little pressure on me. So I was really at the bottom of my barrel, and she offered it to me. She said, "Look, I'm going to pay for this course. It's a 3-day course, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, and it's like 16-hour days. It's intense, but I think you need to do it. I'm going to pay for you to do it, and if you like it, you can pay me back. If you didn't think it was any value, don't pay me back." That pretty much changed my life. That was a very pivotal moment in my own personal development process, because I was very resistant. She offered this actually opportunity to me years before, and I'd always just go, "Oh, I'm not doing any personal development fluff type stuff. I'm not that type of person." But when I was at the bottom, I thought, well, the only way I can go is up, right? So I'll just give anything a try. And I did it, and it changed my life.
Oh, I can imagine. So, what were some of the key takeaways from this course that you undertook, just so that other people can also maybe consider
Yeah,
this
yeah.
as
Well, it was very full on. It was very that you are the creator of your life. You're the director. You're the one that can do it. And I just think, no, these things are happening to me. And like I'm not. I was always putting the blame on everyone else. And sometimes it was my fault. Sometimes it wasn't. Right, but I just had this. I couldn't let go of things from the past, because as I got older, these things started to go in my head, and I wasn't always, I was, and then I realized I'm not chasing what I love to do. I'm chasing money. I'm always chasing money. I wasn't looking for a career. I was just looking how much money I can make. Where's the best places to work to make the most money, to get stuff. And it was all about me, 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 me. When I actually did this course, it actually showed me that everything that happens in your life is because of you, and when you actually take full responsibility of how your life is and how your life isn't, you can actually transform your life. And it really showed me, because I was resistant. I was very resistant in the course, but um, they they broke through. They broke through. I had a massive breakthrough in the course, um, and yeah, it changed my path. It changed my mindset, my attitude. I got clarity on where my life is. I sort of really. I just got serious. I think I was just fluffing around a lot, and I was very pig-headed, very arrogant, very ignorant. Um, and I started to realize that you know there's more to life than just money. And I think happiness is a big part of it, and when you do something you love, you find the money comes. My dad would say to me once, there was an old man who was on his deathbed, and very, very successful, very, very wealthy. And, someone had asked him, what's the key to success? And he said, find something you love to do, and then find someone to pay you to do it. And I sort of had that dream when I was in sports, because I think everyone that plays sports, or, actors, or, people that make a really lot of money and they love what they do, people like, oh, I wish I was like that. I wish I was like that. And they believe that, oh, it's a dream. But from doing this personal development course, it actually showed me that you can turn your dreams into reality, and that you actually have the power to create the life that you want to live, and live powerfully within that. So for me, that was a massive, massive turning circle. And I ended up doing many of the courses there. I became a senior graduate of these courses, so much so that I would then become a coach on these courses, and started coaching. not for money, just for free, to being able to give back. And some of the courses, there was self-expression and leadership program that I did, and that helped me get the council to spend $30,000 on our park around the corner from our house. They hadn't done any upgrades for like nearly 20 years. And I rallied around the community. I knocked on over 100 people's doors and got signatures. And it took me 2 years for this to work, but I actually got them to spend about 35 grand on the park. I was in the local paper a few times. Got them to build a basketball court because I wanted to play basketball. So some of it was my own, for my own selfish reasons. But then when I actually got that built and I saw how many families would, because it was a massive park and there was no facilities, there was only a swing and a slide, there was no barbecue, there was no tables, to eat. They put a barbecue there. It was just amazing, right? To be able to see how at the end of that project, and doing a community project like that, how it actually served the community. It was absolutely awesome. And then especially at the time, people were saying, "You're the guy from that paper. You're the guy that did the basketball thing," and that was pretty cool. It was really good for me to be able to get that. So by doing that course was absolutely amazing. And then when I did the very last course, their hardest course, the team management and leadership program, they pretty much teaching you to be a world leader. And that course was a 2-year course. It was the most intensive course. So for 12 months, you get coached. And then in the second year, you become a coach and you coach the first year people. So you get to be on both sides of things. And it was very strict, very hard. It wasn't nice and fluffy and happy in the first earlier courses, but the last course that was very, very intense. But I attribute a lot of my success in life and business to that course because I really grew up. I really grew up. I was pretty immature. I was very arrogant and ignorant, and look, sometimes I still can be. No one's perfect, but I'm now using those skills to catch myself and be able to stop myself. Like one of the things that I used to do all the time is not think before I speak. If something comes in my mind, I'd say it and just blurt it out, and then wouldn't really take into account how others would feel about what I said, because it could have been very rude, or I could have worded it properly. My mother-in-law would always say to me, "Geordie, you don't have any tact the way you speak." So really just learning to take that 1 second before I speak and think about what I say, and is this going to upset this person, or how could I put this to this person in a positive way, was massive for me, because I think communication is the key to everything. Not only communication with others, but also communication with yourself.
Absolutely. And Jody, I can't thank you enough for taking us through that, because this really presents the pattern break in your life, which then takes you away from somebody who, like you said, was just running around looking for whoever is paying the most. Didn't matter, what it was or where it was. It was just who was paying the most, to now going and being selfless, doing things for other people, like case in point, the park that you helped bring to life. Not only was that improving the quality of life for other people, but in essence, that was also you giving back things, that you would not have had you not had this pattern break, with this
Right.
particular course. Now that we've found a newfound man, and congratulations to that.
Thank you. Thank
Where
you.
did we go now with this newfound knowledge? Because this really creates that pivotal moment where so many people never get to, but you now got to do all these lessons, these courses, and you also were teaching others how to be, do, and have a happier existence.
Yeah, well, it was a culmination of things. If I could probably just go back a little bit, um, I there was a brief period where I was working night shift for Coles in cold storage in freezers, anywhere from 2, 3 degrees in the fridge to minus 30 to nearly minus 50 in the freezers. And I was doing some, it was actually, picking all the stock for all the shopping centres, right, at Coles. So in cold storage. So it was in Truganina. I was on the other side of town. I lived in the north, and that job was in the west. And I was working there for a little bit in the freezers, and I was making amazing money, but I was working 6, 7 days a week. Again, working like a dog. I always had a workaholic ethic. It was like a work hard, play hard. I used to love working hard and then playing hard. And I started to not feel good. And I thought it was the freezers. I started to get like hot and cold flushes, and dizzy spells. And I thought it was the job. I just thought, this job's not that great. Working in minus 30 all the time. And I was in this big, massive suit, and it was very hot. And you'd get, even though you're lumping, sometimes you'd be lumping, uh, you know, slabs of Coke or dog food or whatever it was, right? And it was hard work. And there was the bosses were very, everything was, the technology kicked in so they could know how much you picked an hour. And if you didn't pick well enough or much fast enough, they'd sack you. So that's why it was a high paced job, high pressure, but well paid, but there was no days of slacking off. You slack off and the boss is straight up onto you and what's going on. So I started to get these dizzy spells, and I started to get worse. I remember being at about 3 o'clock in the morning. We were having our lunch. That was our lunch break at 3 in the morning. And I was sitting there and I just sort of got dizzy like this. So like, if you've ever been really, really drunk and you're about to spew up, and I just started spinning. And then I was like, oh my God, I think I'm going to be sick. And then all of a sudden it would just disappear. And I'm like, whoa. And then, and I just went, I think I need to get out of this job, because I was going into hot and cold. Like every time you get really cold, you'd go into a heat room and you have a break and do all that. And I started to have more and more breaks, and the bosses started to realize and go, what's going on with you? What's going on with you? And I said, I don't know. I'm tired, or I'm cold, or I started having all these issues. And I thought, before I get the sack, um, and they get rid of me, because that's where I think it was sort of going. And we were arguing a lot because I was trying to talk about, well, I don't feel good. And they didn't, at the end of the day, they sort of cared. But at the end of the day, I can understand there's a job that needs to be done, and you're not performing like you used to. So there's a problem. So I decided to quit. And at that point, that's when I actually got the call up for CUB. And they said, right, you're going to have a job at the brewery. And I went, yes, great. I'm going to get out of here. So I decided to leave early December, and the job didn't start to start of February. And I thought, great, I'm going to have this time off. I make a lot of money. I do really well. I'm going to enjoy myself. It's summertime. Let's party. Let's have some fun. And I start a new job in the new year. I quit the job. 2 weeks in, I started going, you know what, I'm going to get fit again. I'm going to get strong again. I'm going to start work out. My dad, at the time, I was living back at home. I was waiting for a property to settle and move into a house. I was living in Northcote. We had a property there. And I was going to, we bought a property in Mill Park, and we were going to move there, and we're looking at starting a family, and getting serious. And I remember doing a bench press. So I was out the back on the bench press, and I did like 3 reps, and I was absolutely gone. And I was like, man, I've had sleep. I got my rhythm back. I've quit work. I'm 2 weeks in, and what's going on? I did 3 reps and I'm exhausted. And I'm like, no, this isn't good. I went in the house. I ended up putting on a movie, and I'll never forget it. I put the movie on. Halfway through the movie, I thought, oh, I need to get some chips and drink. So I paused the movie, grabbed some chips and drink, and my dad had an awesome couch. I loved the couch. And I did a bit of a dive onto it. I dived onto the couch, and I thought I pulled a muscle in my neck. And I was like, oh, what's this? And I felt this massive lump on my neck. It was like a golf ball. And I thought, oh my God, I've pulled a muscle in my shoulder, maybe the reps, I don't know. Like, I've done something here. And I got up straight away, and I sort of went like this, and I just saw this massive lump between my neck and shoulder, and went, oh my God, that is I've pulled a muscle in my neck. And straight away and it hurt. It really hurt. And I went to the doctor, and I had my shirt on. The doctor's like, hey, how you doing? And I'm like, great, really great, except for this. And soon as he went like that, he just grabbed the phone and he's straight away on the phone and he's calling the ambulance. And I'm like, what? And he goes, you're going to hospital. And I said, what? Why? What's the matter? And he goes, you've got lymphoma. And I'm
Mm.
like, what's that? And he goes, cancer. He goes, you need to go right away into hospital. You need to have a biopsy. I think you've got lymphoma. And it was a shock. It rocked me to the core. Um, but at the same point in time, for that last maybe 9 to 12 months, I didn't feel right. And I would say to my wife all the time, I don't feel right. And there were times where I was having night sweats. I'd wake up and it was like I just got out of the shower and practically just jumped in bed without drying myself off. And I was having all the dizzy spells. And it was sort of a relief to know that finally I know what's wrong with me. So I ended up having the biopsy and I had stage 2 Hodgkin's lymphoma. That hit me like a ton of bricks. And then they said to me, Geordie, next week, you're going into the Olivia Newton-John ward at Austin and you're having chemotherapy and radiation. And I'm like, what? Is this for real? I'm 26 years old. I'm living the dream, doing really well in life. Everything was good. Yes, my professional, my career is not always the best, but I never was broke. I always worked really hard. That's, again, thanking the dad for the work ethic. But I was like, this can't be happening. This can't be happening. And I was shocked to my whole family. I was shocked to my wife. I actually had to ring up the brewery and tell them, hey, I can't take the job. And they were like, why? You've been waiting for 2 years. And I used to call them all the time. They knew me by name. The phone number would come through and they'd say, hi, Geordie. They would they knew me because I was always like, when am I starting? When am I starting? And I told them, I said, hey, I've just found out I've got cancer and I can't take the job. And I really love the people there because they said, Geordie, you go get yourself better. When you come back, there's a job waiting for you. And I was like, what?
Yeah,
And I
that's
thought that was absolutely amazing. And I went in, and in the next week, I was in 6 months chemo treatment. So my whole life turned upside down. Unfortunately, as I was saying earlier, that property that I brought in Mill Park, the banks ran me, found out that I was unemployed, and then when it came to settling the property, they wouldn't let me settle, and said, sorry, we're not going to approve the loan. And I'm like, what? And I actually had to sell my house in Northgate in order to get my house in Mill Park, which I was very upset about. And for many years, I dwell on that. But yeah, I sort of went, oh, wow, I've got to sell this place. Luckily, my sister-in-law's boyfriend at the time happily took it and said, I'll buy it for you. And we did a handshake deal and sold it straight to him. And then it enabled me to settle on the property in Mill Park because I nearly lost it, that deal. And yeah, so then yeah, I had the house and, but then I was unemployed, cancer, and all that stuff. But while I was doing treatment, you know, I always still kept myself active. So, but it was a massive shock to my life.
brilliant. Thank you so much for taking us there because all of these things really required a very strong mindset and a very strong well-being because this would have obviously crushed anyone. I'm not, taking away from what you went through, but it really takes a redemptive amount of person to be able to go through what you went through and still come out on top. But
Yeah,
you started hinting on real estate there, a few transactions here and there and things of
yeah.
that nature. So, this now is what you're doing and is now a pastime of us. Let us know how you then transitioned into the real estate side of things.
Yeah, yeah. So when I was younger, my unfortunately my grandma passed away and she left me some money. when I was young, when I was about 15, 14. She left me $20,000 inheritance. And one thing led to another, and me and my dad were driving by a house in Reservoir, and we ended up going to an auction, and ended up raining, and everyone left. There was no actual buyers there. And my dad looked at me and said, "Have you still got the money?" And my dad put an offer in for 99,000 on a house in Reservoir, and we brought it. And that was my first taste of real estate at 15 years old. And then, I think it was in my early 20s, I was working at the paper mill for a bit. I did a lot of casual jobs because I was trying to find stuff, and I worked at the paper mill in Elphington, in Fairfield, Elphington, and there was someone dropping a whole lot of books off to be recycled. And I was driving a forklift at the time, and I was picking up all the stuff, and I actually ran over a book. It got stuck in the tire, and I picked it up, and it was Robert Kiyosaki's Rich Dad Poor Dad. And I went, oh, and it was on. Then just after that, it was lunchtime, right? So I took the book and I started reading it on my lunch break, and I read that book back to back nonstop. I think I read that book in 2 days, and after that, I was like, I've got to buy investment property. So I had the 15 years old. We had the house in Reservoir. I think it was me and my girlfriend at the time, bought the place in Northgate. And so I had that in Northgate. Then I was looking at, ended up getting the Mill Park property. And then when I ran over that book, had that book, I was like, right, I ended up buying a property in Queensland. So I think it was, yeah, by the time I was 26 or so, around about there, I was 27. I had I bought a few properties in my time, and never really thought about real estate like that until years later. I actually, I had done many different things. I built up, you know, after I ended up loving Landmark so much, I wanted to be a coach. Worked for a coaching company for a little bit called Winning International, and we were coaching a lot of coaches. It was the coach's coach, and that job didn't really work out. High pressure, didn't really work out for me. I ended up meeting a friend from school. We ended up starting a company in the cryptocurrency space. That went really, really well, but again, didn't last long. So then after that, I didn't know what to do with myself for a little while. And I just thought, oh, I like sales. I like marketing. I knew from my studies that I wanted to do sales and marketing in something. And I was really just helping people in their businesses with coaching and sales and marketing. And I had a bit of that background from the experience of that coaching company, which was really good. It was invaluable at the time. I didn't like that I lost that job, but it taught me a lot. My consulting company practically turned into a digital marketing company. And then one day I had a friend on Facebook add me into one of his Facebook groups in a real estate group. And I went, all right, I'll just say thank you to my friend, put a post in, say, hey, I run a digital company. I specialize in real estate. So I was doing a bit of, I had guys that could do drone work, photography, and real estate. And then we could do websites, brochures, all that type of stuff. And I had this guy that saw my message and said, hey, can we jump on a Zoom? And his name was Steve Mack. And he really said, right, as soon as I got on the Zoom, I was on with the whole team. There was about 7 people on this Zoom. And he said, right, I need a website, I need logo, I need marketing, and all this stuff. And we started chatting. And then when he started hearing my language, he said, you haven't done landmark education, have you? And I said, yes, I'm a senior graduate. And he's like, oh, we had this connection, this massive connection. And then we started talking about everything, sports, that found out he does martial arts as well. So I was a martial arts lover. He was martial arts. So just everything aligned. And we became friends over the 3 months that I was delivering his website and doing a lot of marketing stuff for him. And we became friends. And then he said, mate, why aren't you in real estate? You've brought all these properties. You've had successful property purchases. You've done really well. You just know lots about everything. He goes, I want you on my team. I don't care what it takes. I want you on my team. I don't care if it's one day a week, 1 hour a day, I don't care. I think you're perfect for real estate. I want you on my team. I will coach and train you. I will make you the best salesman, and just come work with me. And I went, oh, and I said to my wife, should I do this? And me and my wife love watching real estate shows, all the renovation shows. One of my favorite shows at the time was New York Listings. I love New York. I used to see these guys doing hundreds of thousands of dollars worth of sale in commissions. And I'm like, wow, how do you do that? That's just insane. And my wife just said, give it a go, see. And I was always that type of let's have a go type of guy. So I went, all right, let's do it. And I sold 2 properties in 2 weeks, and I was hooked. And then I had the massive decision: do I keep my digital company, or do I go into real estate? And the great thing was the landmark education, the personal development course really changed me, because all of those years, I think I did about 6 years of many of the courses there, and pretty much lived there for 6 years. And I just got that muscle, that strength, like in personal development, in really wanting to do stuff, being accountable for everything. I just, yeah, with that course that just made us believe that we're world leaders, really gave me the structure, because I never used a calendar till I was like 27. Never used a calendar. I was like, calendars, yeah, no calendars. I was always a guy that flied by the seat of my pants. So I go with the wind blows. People would say, hey, Geordie, you want to do this? All right, cool. So I was not very regimented at all. And then, yeah, I said, right, I've got the skills and tools to do this. So what I did is I hired a project manager to run my digital company, which still is today. I only probably work a couple of hours a week on that. And my whole focus now is real estate. I think I found my purpose. I really thank Steve Mack from Houseland Co. For what he did for me in that, because he saw something in me, and we're still very great mates today. He's actually riding in Thailand right now on a bike ride. Where they've raised nearly $150,000 for charity for kids over in Thailand in an orphanage. It's a real passion of mine, and I'm always about giving back and helping others, because the success in my life is not my own. I It's the people around me. I'm very, very blessed, and I have a lot of gratitude and for my life, because even through cancer, through losing my job all the time, my wife always being there for me, my family, her family getting around me all the time, supporting me, my great friends, people that I met, they all contributed to my success. The course, all the people in that course at Landmark that just stood for me um, when I didn't see the possibility for myself, and they did. And they didn't take any shit. And they said, Geordie, you're going to have a transformation, and you're going to do it. And even though I love real estate, I love crypto, I did very well out of that. I love investing, but the best investment I think you can ever make is in yourself. And that's the number one.
Absolutely. I
Second
mean,
to that, second to that, it's real estate. So
it solidifies it, you know what I mean? So it really puts it into the brick and mortar sort of space. I mean, obviously, if we really trace to your story, I mean, you had a girlfriend who invited you to McDonald's, you had a mother-in-law who introduced you to Landmark, you had that incident with lymphoma, which pretty much pattern broke for you to then start certain things. You had that friend that invited you to that real estate group, and also Steve, who then showed you the path and things of that nature. So many people would not have seen all these instances, because as you would understand, you can't connect the dots looking forwards. You can only connect the dots looking backwards. And what would you then, obviously you have given the gratitude to all these other people and all these serendipitous extenses and things of that nature, but there's got to be something about you that sports these things and sees it and then act on it, because anybody else would have been given all of these things and not used them as blocks to build the wall
yes,
that you've built for yourself. Would there be
yeah.
anything that you could attribute to that, Geordie?
Yeah, well, look, I've been around a lot of diversity in my life. I went to Northcote High School, and at the time, a few high schools closed down. Fitzroy Tech closed down, Coburg Tech, and a whole lot of kids came to that school all at that one time. It was like a divergence of kids from all over the suburbs. And I saw all walks of life, people that were, successful, their parents had money, and then where parents were other side of the coin, where their parents were successful, ran businesses and all those great things. And then I saw the other side of the coin where, because it was a public school, it wasn't a private school, my parents couldn't afford that. And I saw kids where they were single parents, their mum and dads were drug addicts, and I've seen every spectrum. And as I got older, you see how life can happen to people, and you can either fall down and not get back up and go into a hole and just go deeper and deeper into that hole, or you can make a choice to get out and stand back up. And what I realized is, and especially with how my life turned, it was like a bit of a roller coaster life, the good, the bad, the ugly, and everything. But what I noticed is you have the power to change it. You've just got to take action with it. And you've got to be, at the end of the day, I think the sooner people realize that the only person you can truly rely on is yourself, right? And you back yourself with what you want to do, that's a massive shift. You can control your future by what comes out of your mouth. The words that you speak can either empower you or disempower you. The choice is yours. And when you realize that you have that access to power, true power of how your life can be and how you can't be, is the difference. So when I look back, I look at cancer, and I feel like I was blessed that I got cancer. It was a massive lesson for me. At the time, it wasn't. I was like, this is not fair. Especially when you're getting treatment. And I felt like I was in a retirement home with all these people that are 60, 70, 80 years old, dying on a couch, getting this treatment, thinking, why am I here? What have I got to learn from this? So what was good is looking at the good in everything. And I think it's just that, I don't know if it's my nature, my background, my family, or my life experience, probably a combination of everything, where you actually have the choice what you do with it. Sometimes there's things that happen to you, like cancer. I either choose to make it a positive thing, or I choose to hate it. And I chose, when I got sick, that I'm going to get better. And it was hard because people around me, like my mum, my dad, my wife, they thought I was going to die. But I didn't. So I think it was that strong mentality. It starts with yourself. You must believe that you can do something, and you must believe it before it happens. Because, I used to dwell on the past a lot. Now, the past is a teacher. It's a learning for me. It's about, I use the past to learn, to change, because as they say, definition of insanity is doing the same thing over and over, expecting a different result. But you really look at your past as lessons, and then you live in the present for the future. And by living in the present, that's why they call it the present, because it's a gift. And you can actually empower yourself in the present to be the person you want to be in the future, see it, and actually bring it into reality. And that's the true power of knowing thyself, you could say.
Absolutely. Now, I think you're the most qualified person to talk to anyone when it comes to health, wealth, and relationships, because you have experienced it not at oh, I heard about it, but at a visceral level, because I seriously believe in life, we're here to live, to learn, and to contribute. And you've lived through all these instances, and you've learned the lessons that needed to be learned at that particular time. And now you're contributing, and your biggest contribution now is Property Market Group. Now, you obviously focus on solving time and money issues for your clients. Could you maybe just walk through what that entails,
Okay.
and how do you achieve this for people?
Yeah. So what I realized was I had a lot of success in my life, and I looked back at how did I actually do that? And as I was saying and touching on before, it was good having good people around me. And I learned that through the experience and through having great mentors and following people that if you want to be successful in certain things like real estate, then follow people in real estate that are doing successful things and then get them to teach you, right, how to do what they did and ask them, how did you be successful, and learn from them. So now, yeah, after many years of experience and learning and failures and hanging around the right people and being mentored, and them helping me on my path to success, is now being able to give back. And I realize the two things that everyone in the world has is time and money issues. And I was very, very blessed to be able to work with some of these great developers that I'm working with now, that have, really helped me, taken them under my wing. One of my friends, a broker V, she introduced me to these people, the guys that I mainly work with now, from OYOB, and we're just really helping people, improve their finances through property development. These guys are very successful. They've done over 30 years of work in the industry. The business has been running successfully for nearly 15 years with around about 600 investors in the community. And it's not about sometimes it's not about trying to reinvent the wheel. It's just learn from people that have been there, done that, and they'll show you the way how to do it. And because I found that there's a system for success. There's structures and strategies that work, and there's many that work, and it's not unique. There are good people out there in many different businesses, not just mine and others. There are good operators out there, and it's about learning. I think the biggest thing that I've learned is leveraging other people's skills, experience, and knowledge to be able to get what you want. And then not only that, get what you want, but then the gift of giving. To be able to learn that, have success, and then share that with other people. And that's where my business comes in. And that's where I'm super passionate about helping people, because unfortunately, the stats are in Australia right now, over 90% of Australians that retire currently within 5 years are either are broke and on either partial or full government support. And I think in a country like Australia, like here, we are the lucky country. I think I'm biased, but I think Australia is still the best country to live in the world.
You're not wrong,
And
man.
and
You're not
and
wrong.
more and more people are starting to realize that Australia is actually a good place. Nowhere is perfect, but we have an abundance of opportunity, and I live an abundance mindset. And that's why I have a very high vibration and high energy, because there's opportunity here. You can choose to be angry or upset, or you can choose to be happy. You can be pessimistic or optimistic. The choice is yours. You choose it. So I think this is a great place to live and grow a business and have a great life and build a family. But unfortunately, over 90%, and I had to check this 3 times with 3 financial advisors to check these numbers and do the data and do the research, because I'm very big on data and research and numbers. And it's true. I couldn't believe it. And then unfortunately, Prosper, when I saw those numbers about, and that takes in consideration that you own your own house outright and you're going to be broke within 5 years. Saddest thing is, my parents are in that statistic. And that hurt me. My dad worked most of his life and he's surviving. He owns his own house outright. He doesn't have credit card debt. He doesn't have a car debt. But he's retired now and he's on full government pension. And he's not going on holidays. He's not traveling the world. He's not buying brand new cars. He's not going out for steak dinners every week. He's surviving. And the saddest reality is that me and my brother had to tell him that his super's going to run out in the next couple of years and he's going to have to sell the house. And he's lived in that house for nearly 35 years. He does not want to move. And I've been trying to tell him this the past couple of years, and he doesn't want to listen. But recently, he started to realize that the reality is starting to kick in. That he's going to have to sell his house, either downsize and move further away out of town to buy a cheaper place and have some money left over, or move into an apartment or townhouse, which he does not want to do, just to stay in the area. So and then when I looked at that, I'm 44 years old. I've got a lot of my friends now where their parents are retiring as well and calling it a day with work and their careers. And it's about right. 8 out of 10 of my friends' parents are struggling. They didn't do well. They didn't invest well, or if at all. Most of them are lucky to pay their houses off before they retire, and they're not enjoying themselves. There's probably one or two of my friends' parents that are doing really well, and when I asked them, I started getting into the inquiry about it, and they were like, yeah, I invested well in real estate. So the ones that did well are the ones that did well in real estate. And throughout my years in business, in digital marketing, and in my crypto business, I got to meet a lot of really successful business owners. And I'd always ask them, what's your story? How did you make your first million? And they'd always say 90% of the time, real estate. They'd make it in real estate. They'd do really good on a property. Sell that property, use that money um, to start their business, and then obviously became successful. And then I'd always say to them, do you still invest a lot in real estate now? And they'd say yes. But that's when they started to say, I only invest in commercial. And that's what I mainly specialize in, commercial property developments. And that's where I believe it's taken me, even though I've done a lot of real estate stuff, it's taken me nearly 20 years to realize that commercial property is where it's at. And especially in property development is where the most money to be made in real estate is. So that's where that's my playground now. That's where I work. And my goal is now is I at least want to be able to help 100 people a year to be able to, one, pay off their home loans within a 10-year period, and then help them build a property portfolio that gives them great passive income so they can live a life of choice rather than circumstance. Because most people, when they retire, they don't have choices, and some people keep working to their 70 plus because they don't have a choice. They have to keep working. And I think it's disgusting. I think it's very sad. And that's what drives me every day to help my clients achieve that success. It's not all about the money. I think the new money these days is time and freedom. Financial freedom is a great word that's been thrown around for many years. And, passive income's a sexy word. It sounds awesome. But from the stats, over 90% of Australians won't achieve it. And it doesn't matter if you earn 50 grand or 500 grand. I've seen people that make 500 grand a year and spend 500 grand a year. So it's not always about how much money you make. It's how you spend it, and most importantly, how you invest it.
Really. Now, Geordie, you took the words right out of my mouth. I mean, obviously, as you were saying, Australia is a lucky country. People like myself come from wherever we come from, and we can establish ourselves. Try doing that in America or in the UK, where there's old money and things of that nature. And yet, like you say, some people that were born with this luxury are not maybe taking full advantage of that. Maybe it's because fish don't see the water that they swim in, and it's just the way it actually works. But you did open up and say leverage, and also coping and learning from those that have sort of gotten a bit of success in this game is what other people should do. So for somebody who's listening to this or watching this and thinks, wow, this Geordie guy really might get me because he's been through it all, seen it all, and things of that nature, where can they go to find you, in this whole internet space, that they can actually maybe get started to learn a little bit about how you can be of help to them?
A good place to start is connect with me on LinkedIn. If someone's serious about property and serious about investing, is just first start connect with me on LinkedIn and find me, Geordie Milbourne Property Market Group, and send me a message. My phone number's on there. My email's on there. Connect with me and have a strategy session. I offer free strategy sessions to people where it goes for about an hour to an hour and a half. And just really, the first thing we look at is one, where is their financial position at? It's very, very important. Unfortunately, finance and real estate go hand in hand. So, as they say, you've got to have money to make money, and you've got to start from somewhere. So, you know, is one to we look at the finances, look where your current financial position is. Then we look at what's your retirement goals, what age do you want to retire at, and how much passive income would you like to have. Once I understand those three things, and let's say, for example, someone has a 10-year period for them to achieve financial freedom and live a life of choice rather than circumstance, and they can choose whether they want to work or not. Then we actually help them create, through a lot of what I do is education and strategy. And I'm not the expert in everything. I bring in experts, and I have great colleagues and partnerships with different groups like accountants or SMSF specialists and etc. that we help our clients formulate the best strategy for them and show them what's possible in their current position, and sort of be able to help them bridge that gap between where they are now and where they want to be, and then bring those team of people around you to be able to help you make the best educated choice. So they get to choose in what they want to do. I just show them what's possible, and they choose the strategy that's right for them. And then we work all together and we work as a team. I really believe, another cheesy saying, teamwork makes the dream work. And anything you do, obviously I used to love the love of money. For me, if it doesn't make dollars, it doesn't make sense. So you really want to be able to, one of my friends, she's an architect, she said, live in your values. And I really think you need to do that. You need to do what's right for you. I think most people, when it comes to this country is great, but they do not teach this stuff in school. What I've learned throughout the years, especially in real estate and in business and in life, doesn't get taught in the classroom. It gets taught in the real world. And you need to surround yourself with people, like-minded people, people that you want to be around. A good guy that I watch, I do a lot of education and learning. And there's a guy, Dan Pena. I might not like everything he does, but he says, show me your 5 friends and I'll tell you your future. And I think that's really, really important because, again, leverage is the key. And you'll be surprised at how many people, successful people, that you can go up to and ask, just talk to them and just say, how did you do it? I need help with this, or I'm dealing with this right now. I would love your feedback. And you'll be surprised how many people want to help you. I've got these 2 men that in my development company that I work with, Michael and Peter, and they have been integral to me. Michael treats me like a son. He's always there to support me. He wants the best for my business and my growth, and he's had a wealth of experience in life and in business and been very successful and is very successful. And learning from him is just absolutely amazing. And he doesn't ask anything of me other than just giving my best and doing the best work. And I listen to everything he says. It's sort of like if Warren Buffett was telling everyone his next play, you listen. If you're in
I'll be,
business and you
I'll be
invest,
sitting with note and paper in hand, you know what I mean?
you
Because
follow that. And the other guy is Peter. So Peter Seisland, this guy, he's just he works, he does my strategy. So if you come in, anyone ever comes in for a strategy session, they'll be having most probably a session with me and Peter, and he's just got a wealth of knowledge in finance and investing and property development, and he really helps. He's really the backbone of, I really rely on his knowledge, skills and experience to give my clients the best possible outcomes and success as possible. And having people like that in your life that care for you and really want your business to grow and thrive, and don't take shit. They don't take any crap. They if they see a problem, then they're going to call it. And the best thing is, I've been able to own my problems, and over the years I've been able to get really refine my business down and my offering. And the best thing is, not only have they given me clarity in my business and my life and where I'm going, but then I'm able to then pass that gift on to my clients and give them the clarity that they need and the success in their life, and show them the possibilities that are out there for them. And I love that. That's I love what I do. I feel very blessed to be in the position that I'm in today, to be able to enrich myself and have a really great life. I've got a great family. I've got great friends. I've got a great business, and then be able to also give that gift to others. I think that's my purpose in life, and I really just want to help people be successful. And if they have that passion for real estate, or see the possibility for that for them, because most people, the biggest investment they ever make in their lives is usually a property. And it's like, hey, let's find a way to be able to pay that off as fast as possible, and also build a great portfolio that can support your lifestyle. Because unfortunately, most people out there don't love what they do, and they're doing it for the money, and they're not living their best life. So if I can help people live their best life, and give back more time and money to do what they want to do, and be in charge of their life, and be able to do what they want, when they want, how they want, that's the dream. Most people want more time and money to spend with their family and friends, and do the things they love in life and in business. So it's just a gift for me, and now that's I found my purpose. So I feel very blessed.
Absolutely. And congratulations, man. Not a lot of people have such a conclusion and also an outlook of a life. And as you said, success leaves clues. So for those that are watching right now, if you're ready to take control of your own financial future through property investment, I encourage you to visit Property Market Group. And I'll also put all those links in the show notes so that you can learn how Geordie and his team can actually help you achieve your goals. And you don't want to wait, because the journey to prosperity starts right this moment. And yeah,
Right.
now, Geordie, I mean, you've told us where you've been, everything else that comes along with it, and you told us that you no longer dwell in the past. What's next? What are you working on right now that we can be excited
So
now that
now
you've
I'm
let us into your world?
actually Thanks for saying that. I'm about to launch the new website very soon, so that's why I didn't really promote the website. It is a few years old, and a lot of things has developed in the business. So I'm currently in the design phase of reconstructing the website. I'm actually really trying to make that transition over to, I want to grow a national business. That's my goal. I want to be able to create a legacy for my kids. I realize that I want to be able to give my kids the best opportunity in this life. So I'm building a business to, not only for me, but to hopefully enrich my kids. I wish one day when my kids get older, because they're only 11, 9, and 7, right? And I want the best for them. So I want to build my business, because me and my wife, we both run our own businesses. The blessing that we've had is I've been able to watch my kids play sports. If they have school sports, I'm able to do that. I'm able to take the time out. When I was working in a job, I could not do that. The boss would be like, "Where are you going?" "Oh, I'm going to watch my daughter play school football, or athletics or something." There's no way I could do that. So I feel super blessed to be able to do that. So now I want to be able to build the business big enough that eventually I can exit out of the day to day of the business, still have that business running, and still helping people be able to scale it up. And I would wish, if my kids would want to work in my business one day, that would be amazing, in sales, in marketing, in admin, whatever they want to do, right? If not, I want it to leave it to them, so the business can run itself. I believe a true business is a business where you could go away on a holiday to Europe for 3 months and the business still makes the same money with or without you. So it's about having a good team. So right now I'm working on scaling my team, and I'm only a small little company at the moment. I'm working on getting myself to be a big business and leave that to the kids, and they can either sell it when I'm gone or and make lots of money and live a really great life, or they can work in the business and take it over, or just collect an income from it for the rest of their lives. So I'm trying to build that legacy, and most important is really just help people get ahead. Really, I didn't do all this on my own. I'm not the smartest guy. I didn't, I'm still learning. I still think myself as green in the real estate industry. I haven't, so I feel like a sponge. I'm trying to learn as much as I can and then give back. It's all about giving back. I think I realize the more you give, the more you get back, and it's really weird to do that. But while I was at my landmark course, I met a billionaire, and he always realized, Geordie, you're all about the money. And he said to me, I want you to stop thinking about money and counting dollars. I want you to start giving. I want you to start giving more than you want, because I was all about me, me, me. And he said, let's just play this game. And my whole life changed. Like my life just changed. Money and opportunities just started coming because I started caring more about others than I did myself. And as you probably know, it's all about givers gain. The more you give, the more you receive. So it's an amazing thing. We're both part of that B&I family, and I really enjoy that because one of my friends who actually introduced me to B&I, who was my coach in Landmark, he was my coach for a period of time, said to me, Geordie, B&I is like Landmark. It's like personal development for your business. And when
Mm.
he said that, it landed. It landed for me, you know?
Absolutely. Because I viscerally believe if you want to go far, you go alone. But if you want to go further, you go together. Now, Jody, I can't
That's
thank you enough for the time that we spent on the call today. I mean, your life story and your experience just really leaves a trail and lessons in and of itself, for those that want to live, be, do, and have a happier existence. And, amongst everything that you spoke, I did not hear you mention a book, but I visually believe you owe us one if
yeah.
one is not yet in the making. But that's a story for another day.
Yes,
So
one
thank
day, one day, one day it'd be good. I just hope everyone out there that does end up watching this is if anything, if this by doing this podcast it changes one person's life, then it was worth it for me. Just one person. I know I can't, impact everyone maybe, but if that one person changes their life, decides to make a decision, to decide to take a risk and start their own business, or take that next step in their job, or anything, just anything positive that makes a difference to them, or start looking at investment and looking at it, whether it's they come and have a chat to me or someone else. I hope I've inspired or motivated someone to be able to take that next step and move forward, because at the end of the day, inspiration and motivation only last so long, but it's your commitment. I think it's your commitment to your goals. Because and this is a tip for everyone, you are going to come to a crossroads and you are going to have roadblocks, and then you've got to make that decision whether you move forward or you give up. And I think if you really love and passionate about what you do, do not give up. You will find a way, and believe that you will find a way. And the world, the energy, I'm not very religious, but I'm very spiritual. And I believe that if you put it out there in the ether, you ask for what you want, the people will show up, and that's what's really happened in my life. The people that have showed up in my life and helped me achieve my goals, I owe everything I have to them.
Absolutely. Well, you don't even need to look for any further, Jody. I mean, I'm already inspired, and we haven't even published this episode yet. So your mission is already complete. And for those that are watching right now, obviously you can tell Jody's journey is just a testament to the power of resilience, mentorship, and strategic action. So if you found value in today's discussion, please don't keep it to yourself. Share this episode with somebody who could benefit from Geordie's insights. They could be going through a career change, a life change, or they're looking to be a better dad, husband, business person, whatever it is that that person is going through. Just send them this video. And if somebody has sent you this video, the next time you see them, just give them a hug. And also comment in the comments below to Geordie that because of you, I did not give up, because I know so many people are going to be touched by this message and your journey and your life activities there. But I can't wait to see what people are going to do with this information, and I can't wait to see what you will do with the rest of your life based on the kind of person that you've become, and also the person you're becoming. Geordie, thank you once again, and for those that are watching, thank you so much for tuning in to the Online Prosperity Show. And hang around, because in our next episode, we're going to be exploring ideas that can actually enhance your happiness and overall well-being. Until then, keep thriving and keep prospering in everything that you're doing in your life. Bye for now.